Hey, hello everybody, welcome back to our channel, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I just finished our Systematic Factory playthrough in Oxygen Not Included, and I am getting ready to do a new series in Oxygen Not Included with the new DLCs, but while I'm taking a couple of weeks off before the holidays to do some planning and to get ready to shoot some stuff, I wanted to do something I've been wanting to do for quite a while. A couple of years back, I made a video while I was playing the All of Fabric mod pack, and it was on Hephaestus, which is the fabric port of Tinker's Construct. The Tinker's Construct and Hephaestus are mods that are designed around making tools that are repairable and modifiable, and armor that's the same way, and lots of different new ways to do the parts and tools that you need to play Minecraft. And I get a lot of views on those videos to this day, and a lot of people asking questions about it. And a lot has changed since I made those videos. They were a couple years back, like I said, and I think the Minecraft version that we were using at that time was like Minecraft 1.16 or 17. And now we're in Minecraft 1.20 with the latest version of Hephaestus. And also, I feel like I've done a lot more as a YouTuber since then and have gotten a lot better at making videos. And I wanted to do a new video that I could refer people to that kind of went through and showed the playthrough with Hephaestus from beginning to end game of Hephaestus, as it were. So I'm going to start off in this new world. I'm going to go around and I'm going to collect a few things. And as I get to different stages in the game, I'm going to stop and explain how it works so that hopefully after watching the videos that I make in this little series here, you can be an expert on how Hephaestus works and how to use it. So first thing I need to do is I turned off daylight cycle so I could do this little intro, and I'm going to turn it on. And then I'm going to set out and do some exploration around and just gather a few basic resources like you always do when you start Minecraft, and do some exploring. And I will come back when I'm ready to make my first set of tools that we're going to use in our playthrough. One of my favorite things about the Hephaestus mod is that when you normally start out in Minecraft, the first thing you do is you cut down some wood, and then you use it to make some wooden tools. And then you use those wooden tools to collect stone so that you can craft stone tools. And then those wooden tools, you just toss them or burn them or whatever. But Hephaestus is designed specifically so that when you make tools, you don't ever really get rid of them. You just upgrade them and make them into new tools. But the first part that you need to do to get started is to get some of the tables that Hephaestus uses. So first building block you need is to have patterns. And I recommend making a bunch of them. You're going to end up using a lot throughout the playthrough, so you can't ever make too many, really. So they're just real simple. It's a real simple recipe. You take planks and sticks and craft them together, and you get patterns. And the first table is a crafting table with a pattern above it. Gives you a crafting station. Now the crafting station, it looks very similar to a crafting table, and it works pretty much the same, with the exception that when you put items in it, you can visually see them, and they stay in the table so that you can modify your recipe and then come back to it when you have other pieces to put in or things like that. It's really handy. The next table that you're going to want to make, oh, that's correct, is a part builder, and that's just 2 planks with 2 more patterns. Put that down, and you put it next to your crafting station, and then I need 1 more piece of wood to finish the last one. Let's cut down this one here, and we'll grab a couple more because we're going to need some wood for making our parts. But the last table we're going to do at this stage is 2 planks here, 2 planks there, and 3 patterns across the top. It makes our Tinker's station, and you want to put this down right next to it. When you are using your tables in Hephaestus, they are multi-block. So whichever part you access, whether you come in at this end, or even in the middle, you can access all of them. And that makes it pretty handy. The part builder is where we're going to put the patterns, and we're going to start by using oak planks to make our first tools. So if we, the inventory staying in is also the same with our other parts of the table. So we can put in our patterns and leave them there. We can put in our oak planks, they have an internal inventory, which is really handy. So the first thing we want to do is look at the Tinker's Station, and we can see all the different tools we can make. So we have our sword, we have daggers, we have a comma, we have a pickaxe, a hand axe, a mattock, pickaxe, and a crossbow. Those are the tools we can make right off the bat. So you can see each one of them uses different components. So let's start with the pickaxe. That's going to be the first tool we're going to make. So we need to make a tool handle, a tool binding, and a pick head. So if we go to the part builder, the tool binding is the first one right here. We're just going to make one out of wood. We're going to make a tool handle out of wood, and we're also going to make a pick head out of wood. So when we go back to our Tinker Station, we have the pickaxe here. We put the parts in the corresponding parts or slots, and we get an oak wood pickaxe. You can see before you craft it what the stats are. So we have 60 out of 60 for the durability, and the other stats are set. We also get some modifiers, and if you hover over them, it tells you what they are. So the piercing does bonus damage through armor on whatever tool or weapon that you made, and cultivated makes it so that it grows more material when repairing. So basically it makes it so that it's cheaper to repair this item because it's made out of wood. Every type of material you use has different components that it gives to you, and all of them are listed inside our book here. And I will show you more about the books as we go, but mostly I'm just going to leave them there as a guide for you to use while you're playing, and we'll just show you the ones that I'm going to be making. So I'm going to make a few other wooden tools, and I'll come back after this rain has passed. All right, I've used my first wooden tools to collect a few resources, and I want to show you a few things that make this mod what it really is and why it's a fun one to play with in a mod pack. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the comma. It's a unique tool. If we look at it in here, it is a precision reaping tool, mowing down plants and shearing animals. You right-click with it to harvest and replant crops. So the interesting thing about it is that you can make a comma just out of wood. This was a wooden small blade and a wooden tool handle and a wooden binding. And you can use it to shear sheep. You can also use it to collect leaves, and you can use it to shear grass, just like you would with a pair of iron shears in vanilla Minecraft. But what is really cool about it is early on in the game, you can use this to collect wool from sheep, and without ever getting past the wood stage of the game, you can make beds, do things like that. So that's a really interesting tool in the arsenal for the early game. But as far as the system for the tools in Hephaestus, what is really neat is a couple of things. One is that if you come back to your Tinker Station with your tool and you use the material that the main part of your tool, so in a pickaxe, that's the pick head. If you put that in the Tinker Station, you're able to repair your tool. So you can repair them forever. When that was out of durability, you could see that it said broken rather than it breaking and you losing it. So you never, unless you lose the item itself, you never have to replace this tool. You can constantly repair it. The other thing you can do if you want to be able to repair it on the go is you can make these wooden repair kits. You can make this out of any material that you can make pieces in the part builder from. And then while you're on the go, if you were to put the tool and wood in your inventory, it doesn't do anything. But if you take a wooden repair kit, because it matches the wooden hand axe head here, you're able to repair your tool while you're going. So whatever you make the tool out of, as long as you have the appropriate repair kits, instead of carrying several pickaxes for a long mining session, you can just carry a handful of repair kits and repair them. The next thing that's really unique about Hephaestus that makes it really worth playing with is the fact that when you decide, I want to go from the wooden age up to the stone age, you can just swap out parts. So you can swap out any parts for different materials at any time. So if you want to make a stone pick, all you have to do is make a stone pickaxe head, and then you come in here And you take this, and just like you were applying wood to repair it, you put in the new part and you swap it. So when you look here, the durability for the wooden pickaxe is at 60, and attack damage is at 1, attack speed is 1.2, it is harvest tier of wood, mining speed 2, and there's 3 upgrades and 1 ability slot. When we add in the stone pickhead, it increases our mining speed, our harvest tier, and our durability, and I think it doubles our attack damage as well. So basically, you have effectively turned your wooden pick into a stone pick without having to craft a whole new pick. You can also do that the other way around. If you were to want to do so, you can just put in a wooden pickaxe head and swap it back anytime you want. So you can change this tool to anything you want with the available parts at any time. You can also, if you want to, craft an item called the part chest, which just requires a pattern, chest, sticks, and a plank. And so what you can do with this is you can set it next to your stations. You can put your parts in here, and this is an inventory that grows as you put more into it so that you can put as many as you want. And any parts can go in here. That way, if you have parts that you're not going to use right now, or you want to save them for later, and you collect them from wherever, you can put them in the part chest, and then they're just there for your use whenever you want to do it. And you can actually grab them from the multi-block in order to do that. Pretty cool. So now you can, instead of carrying around a large amount of picks, like I said, I can just make some repair kits out of stone. And now when I go mining, I effectively have multiple pickaxes with me without taking up tons of space in my inventory, and I can repair on the go. So I'm going to use these wooden tools and upgrade them to stone, and I'm going to go and collect some more resources, and I'm going to explore around to look for a good place to set up to get into the next stage of Hephaestus. I've used our stone tools to go and collect some various resources, and I wanted to show you something really quickly just to show you that there are lots of different tools that we can make. So we can make tools out of flint, we can make them out of many different items. So if we look at a pick head in here, there are all kinds of different ones in here that are various tiers, and like each one has its own durability, has its own stats that go with it, different tiers that we can use. So there's lots of different options, and I encourage you when you're playing around to try out different things to see what combinations work best for you. I'm not going to go through all of them. What we are going to do is we're going to move into the next phase of Hephaestus, and to do that, the first thing we needed to do was get some gravel, some sand, and some clay. And then you can get all of those from the riverbeds, which is a really easy way to do it. I dug up a lot more than we actually need. You just need a handful of each. But what you do when you have them is you take 1 sand, 1 gravel, and 1 clay, and that's going to make you 2 pieces of grout. When you have your first piece of grout, first thing you should do is combine it with a book so that you can get a puny smelting book. So while we had the materials in U-Book, it showed us how to do some of the basics, and then shortly we're going to finish up everything that's in here by going into the traveler's gear. We may actually also try to do a ranged weapon just so we have one, but for now we're going to move on from that because we want to get into the puny smelting book, because that is where we first get into working with metals. And the first stage of that, we're going to use some copper so that we can make some traveler's gear, which also is something listed in the materials in U-Book. So if we go back here, traveler's gear is shown here. There's goggles, vest, pants, boots, and a shield. And they're kind of like a in-between for leather armor and iron armor as far as the durability and the armor that you get from them. But they have lots and lots of upgrade slots like all the other items here in Hephaestus. So the first thing we need to do to make them is to turn our grout into seared brick. To do that, we just take them and we cook them up in a furnace. I've already done a bunch of them so that we have some to start with. And the first item that we're going to craft is a melter. So if we look at the seared melter recipe, it's 5 seared brick and then either an ingot gauge or a fuel gauge. That's just glass with seared bricks. So we're going to craft one of those. And then we're going to use that with 5 brick to make a melter. The next step we need is the seared heater, which is just 8 brick around like this. We're also going to need to make some faucets, which you get 3 from 3 bricks. And then we're going to need something to cast into. And there's 2 different types. There is the casting table, and then we're also going to make a casting basin. And those are the basic parts that we're going to use. So if we want to set this up, the first thing we do is we put down our heater on the ground. On top of that, we put the seared melter. On the seared melter, we take a faucet and put it on either side. And we put a basin under one of those, and we put the casting table under the other side. And so that's the basic setup for our seared melter. The way this works is it uses coal or any other burnable material. You could actually put wood in here or whatever, just like a furnace, and then you can smelt your first metals. So I'm going to take a piece of copper to demonstrate it. Once we have a heat source in here, we can melt the copper down, and that'll give us our first copper in here. You can notice that one piece of raw copper actually gives us 1 ingot and 3 nuggets. It's a little bit extra for each one, so we get some extra materials for doing our melting in the melter rather than cooking it in the furnace. You can still obviously cook copper in the furnace if you wanted to. It would certainly not be harmful to do so, but you do get a little extra out of the copper. Plus, in here we have the ability to pour the copper to make material. Later on, we'll get into the point where we make casts that are permanent by using gold. But for now, we're going to work with sand casts. So sand casts, you just take 1 piece of sand. It makes you 4 casts. And then you use that cast in the casting table to make different things. So first thing I'm going to do is just demonstrate to you how we get ingots from here. So if we have an ingot's worth of copper in here and we pour it into an ingot mold, then that we have an ingot and we lose our cast. So one thing we can do in order to get more out of our ingots or our copper but not have to pour so many casts is if we put enough in here that we can get an entire block of copper, we can take this entire block of copper and we can pour it out into the casting basin. Now this melter has a really small inventory, both in the fact that you can only put 3 in at a time, and it only holds a little over 1 block worth of fluid at the same time. Another limitation to it that I'm going to demonstrate you with this iron is that when the iron melts, because we have copper in here, this iron is going to give us an error and say not enough free space for the fluid. But the copper melted and it went in. So we could put the copper in, but we couldn't put the iron in. That's because we can only have 1 type of fluid in here at a time. And so with the melter, we can't do alloys. We can't do multiple different types of fluids at the same time. All we can do is just the one. So we're going to keep getting copper run through here until we have enough copper for what we need. But while that's cooking up, let's just demonstrate what we're going to make. So the first thing we're going to do is use 2 pieces of leather and 2 pieces of copper to make boots. And then the rest of the traveler's gear is also combinations of copper and leather. So we'll make a vest. And the goggles is actually going to need some glass panes. So we will craft some of those. And then we will craft them as well. So now, when we put this on, we have a nice set of copper and leather gear. Kind of looks pretty cool, but also it gives us some armor with some basic protection. Later on, we'll use the upgrade slots and the defense slots to add even more protection by doing different enchants that are worked through Hephaestus, which instead of doing enchanting on an enchanting table, we actually have enchants here that we use items to place onto the armor. So like, for example, melee protection uses cobalt reinforcements that we can make with cobalt and obsidian panes. And projectile protection is a similar one where we use amethyst bronze to make it. and we can make protection against projectiles. So we'll get into that in a little while later, but first we want to finish up what we're doing here. We're going to pour out this copper. So now that we've done the basics with the smeltery, the next thing we want to do is use this system to make some new tools for it. So what we want to do, let's say we want to make a new pickaxe. We're going to make a stone pick head, and we're going to take that head and we're going to put it here. Oh, I'm sorry, actually we want to put the sand down first. And then we're going to take that head and put it in here so we have a cast ready to go. We're going to put some copper in here because that's the metal that we have at the moment. We have a little bit of iron, but not a lot. And so I want to just stick with this for the moment. So now that we have the copper in here, we can pour that down. Once we have that copper pickaxe head, we can go over here to our tinker station. We can take our tool and we can put copper on it. And you can see right now we have 130 durability. We're harvest tier stone and mining speed of 4. When we add this to it, our mining speed goes up slightly, but more importantly, our harvest tier goes up to iron, which means we're going to be able to harvest a little bit higher of resources. We get more durability, and that means now we have a copper pick. On the downside, that means we're going to need to use copper to repair our pick, but we have a good bit of copper, and so we can do that. The first thing we want to do with this new copper tools is go out and do some mining and find some gold, because gold is going to allow us to make permanent casts. It's also going to allow us to get into some higher tiers of Hephaestus to get into the next stage that we want to do. So I'm going to take some time and make some upgrades to my other tools, and we're going to use our traveler's gear and our new copper tool set to go out and get started to get us into the Iron Age. I found a pretty sizable cave underneath our plains biome here, and I did a good bit of time down here collecting stuff. There's still a lot of copper around, and there's still some more iron in some places, but I managed to get some gold. I got a bunch of iron. I got a lot of copper, and I managed to find a geode and got some amethyst, which is really cool. I got a couple more pieces of string and some other little bits and bobs, but my repair kits are starting to run low, and I've already died once. So it's time for me to head back out, and we're going to move on with the next step in Hephaestus, because I think it's time that we get into some more advanced smelting, which means we can get to the Iron Age, and then we can also get into some more advanced armor very, very soon, because this armor is just not cutting for what we want to do right now. We're back at our base, and we have a few more things to work on now. Just like before, the Puny Smelting book has a lot more stuff in it that we didn't go over. It shows you what all the different upgrades you can do on things are. We're going to get into some of that later on, but it also shows you some information about modifiers that you can do and how you can get extra modifiers. So it's all stuff that's worth looking into, but the big thing that we want to look at right now is how we get to the next book, the Mighty Smelting book. So now we want to get a book, which means we're going to need a piece of leather and 3 pieces of sugarcane. And we're going to use that to craft a book. Oops, I did 4. No big deal. And what we need to do is put this into our casting table here, and we need some seared stone. So I have some different options. We could put in seared brick. We could put in a seared stone that I poured out of the smeltery and put it in, or you can put grout directly into the melter, and it will melt down and give you seared brick. The nice thing about that is when you cook this in a furnace, you get 1 seared brick. When you cook it in the melter, you get 2. So it is a much more effective way to do it. And once you have it in there, you can pour it onto the book. And all you have to do is wait for a little bit, and it will give us the Mighty Smelting book. The Mighty Smelting book is the next in the series, and it teaches us how to use the actual smeltery. It also shows us some things about the anvil, and it goes through all the different things about how we set up. Oh, I never saw that one before. It shows us how we do alloying, which is mixing different metals together. It shows how the GUI works, and it shows all the different blocks we can use. And it also talks about entity melting, where if you melt certain mobs or other entities, you can get different items from it. And it has some that are notable. So if we can set one up with a silverfish, you get seared stone out of it. You set one up with villagers or illagers, you get emeralds. Skeletons will give you milk, and there are even more that you can discover, it said. So this also lists the tier 3 metals and materials that we can use. So they allow us to get much farther in. And again, I encourage you to look through all the different materials and find what works best for you to do it. We're going to focus, I think, on making some amethyst bronze because it has some decent durability and it gives us some more things that we can do with it. So first things first, let's go through the steps to set up the smeltery. So we need a seared stone, which we've already made one. We have that in our casting basin, and then we need to pour copper over it. And we need to put in, oh, I still have seared brick in here, so let me get that out of here because the copper won't go in until that's gone. But we need 4 ingots of copper, which is what we have in there now, and we can pour that over the seared stone. And once that cools, we're going to get our smeltery controller. Smeltery controller, much like the seared melter, is the brains of the whole operation. So that's the first thing we need. We're going to just, let's set this up over, let's do it up here on this area because there's a little more space. We're going to set that block down. We also need to craft a few other things that we didn't have before. Actually, I want to do smeltery. Okay, this, avert your eyes if you don't want to see this. But this guy needs to go because he is not respecting the fact that I'm making a video. Much better. Okay, so the other items that we need to craft. Seared drains, which are just seared blocks with copper ingots. And so to make the seared blocks, we're just going to drop in some more grout into here, and we're going to pour some out. But we need to make drains. We can recycle some of the materials here, so we'll use the casting table and the casting basin and the faucets from this. And we also are going to need to make a seared tank, seared fuel tank. So we take 8 seared bricks with a piece of glass to craft that. So we can grab all that out of our inventory because we have it. So glass is in here. And we take this. I'm actually going to make, let's do 4 of these. Once we have the seared stone in here. Oop, that is not what I meant to do at all. If you use this on it, you can actually take the items out of the smeltery. This is not what I intended to do. I want to pour that out. And then we're going to put this back in. So we're going to make a whole bunch of these seared stones so that we can use it to build our smeltery. And then once I have all the materials together, we will assemble it. Actually, just checking our video time, and we're getting pretty close to the 30-minute mark. So in today's episode, we went through the basics in materials and you about how the tools work and some of the early stuff with the traveler's gear. We also worked in the puny smelting, which was using the melter to make our first smelted materials, which allowed us to go collect a lot of resources. And we just started on the smeltery system. In the next episode, we're going to get the smeltery set up, and I'm going to show you how the advanced smeltery works, some of the more complicated things with it, a little bit of the automation of it, and things like that. And then we're going to get started making actually like modifiers for our armor and for our tools that allow us to do some of the more complicated things that really make Hephaestus great. So that's like all the different like enchant kind of things that we can add to weapons, tools, and armor. And we'll cover all of that in the second part. But for now, I hope you enjoyed watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.